let's bring Scott into the conversation here. The Phillies make a couple of trades, and Scott, Wilson Ramos is an all-star catcher. They certainly upgraded the position, but when will we actually get a chance to see him?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. Actually, the $4 million question. That's what's left on his contract for the rest of the year, and the Phillies are going to, I think, pick up most of that, according to Matt Klentak. So, you know, I think judging from the timeline that Matt gave us, it's probably not going to be for another few weeks, mid to late August at the earliest, and he said it might not even be until September 1st. So, you know, it's an interesting move because it doesn't really cost them anything. It's a player to be named, and I don't think it's going to be anyone who they're going to miss now or in the future. And it's sort of a low-risk kind of thing. You know, if he comes back in late August or early September and gives the offense a bit of a lift, great. It didn't cost you anything. If he doesn't, it didn't cost you anything. So, you know, it's kind of an interesting move. It's, you know, I feel like it's sort of a move for the margins of the roster, but, you know, it could be a lot more than that. If he comes back and you know, he's certainly, when he's healthy, he's a really good catcher, a guy who can certainly give them a little bit more offense. I don't know if he's going to give them a whole lot more defense. I've talked to some scouts who question his defense behind the plate, same as they do with Alfaro or Knapp. But, you know, I think he's got to be a bit of an upgrade over what they have defensively, and offensively could be a big upgrade. So, you know, I kind of like the move. I just don't feel like there's any risk involved in doing it.
Yeah, so does he take over when he's ready for Alfaro? Do they split time? How do you see that working out?
They haven't gotten there yet. You know, Gabe Kapler sort of addressed that a little bit today, and he said, you know, he told both Alfaro and Knapp today when he met with them after the trade was made that there are going to be opportunities for both of them to play. And certainly if you're looking at late August, maybe even September 1st for Ramos, then, you know, Knapp is, you know, if he has to go back to AAA, it's only going to be for a very, very short time. They would call up a third catcher on September 1st anyway. In fact, Matt Klentak said that today. He said, we were going to call up a third catcher anyway, and not to say that Wilson Ramos is a third catcher. He's a lot better than a third catcher, but, you know, you were going to need to add that extra body anyway. And so, you know, there really ought to be playing time for all three of them, but obviously it's going to cut into their playing time to have him here. And I think if he's here, if he's healthy, and if he's productive at the plate, it might cut into their playing time a lot because, you know, he's certainly a bat that they could use. So, you know, I think it's all predicated on how he bounces back from this hamstring injury, how much he can play. You know, no DH in the National League, of course, so it's not like you could just throw him in the lineup and say, be our DH. You know, he's going to have to play behind the plate. So yeah. I think they have to sort of see what they're getting when he arrives. And you know, to me, you know, in going through it, I mean, the initial, when he got hurt in Tampa, you know, they said he'd be back at some point in August. And so, you know, I think that there's probably every reason to believe that that's still the case, and they'll go from there.
297, 14 homers, 53 RBI over 78 games with Tampa Bay. Wilson Ramos is going to be the newest Philly. We just don't know when. They also got a lefty to add to the bullpen, Scott. Aaron Loup, who is a guy, gives them the only lefty they have in the bullpen. Do you anticipate him being at the big league level right away?
Yeah, I do. I'm sure he'll join the team on Thursday at home, and you know, he's there. You know, they'll have Adam Morgan back from paternity leave on Thursday, so he's a lefty they'll have in their bullpen. And they do like the job that Austin Davis has done. So, you know, I think that Loup will be at the very least, or at the very best, the second, possibly even the third lefty in their bullpen. Another move for the margins of the roster. But Matt Klentak made the point that in September, even in August, they're going to play a lot of division games against the NL East. And if you look at up and down those lineups, you know, Freddie Freeman, Nick Markakis, Ender Enciarte, Bryce Harper, Juan Soto, on and on and on. There are teams in the NL East who have good left-handed hitters. Right. And so, you know, if Aaron Loup gets lefties out, which he's done sort of, you know, over his career in Toronto, up and down and a lot of variables or a lot of variation in his performance like a lot of relievers. But if he can get lefties out, he can be an asset for them down the stretch. And again, Didn't really give up very much. Adds to your depth in the bullpen. So why not?
Scott, obviously, they didn't make that a big move or a major move or anything, but do you think they sufficiently upgraded to be in this for the long haul? We got 2 months left to go. I looked over all the teams that lead the division today at the trade deadline and say, of all of them, the one team I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't there at the end would be Philadelphia. I think all the other division winners essentially are going to hold on and win their divisions. This one is obviously a lot closer than all those divisions. But did they do enough to stay neck and neck with Atlanta?
Ultimately, I think they did. If you factor in Asdrubal Cabrera last Friday, they added Cabrera, Ramos, and Loup without giving up a piece off their big league roster. Most importantly, though, to them, the thing you hear most from Klentak and from Kapler and from other people in the organization who, aren't as visible, who you talk to all the time, is that these moves did not in any significant way decrease the amount of playing time that a lot of the emerging young players are receiving. So, in other words, Maikel Franco, Nick Williams, Alfaro and Knapp, at least until Ramos comes back, they will not lose at bats. They will not lose playing time. They did not add a starting pitcher, which I think is notable because, I look at it and I go, well, if you're in a playoff series, Nola starts game 1 and Arrieta starts game 2, but who starts game 3? And the fact that we don't have a clear-cut answer to that question tells me that maybe they could have added another starter. Mm-hmm. But adding another starter would have meant taking Pivetta, Velasquez, or Eflin, one of those three, out, and they don't want to do that. So, I think that they've done enough to stay in the race. I don't know if they've done enough to put themselves over the top, but I also don't think that they wanted to – they didn't see a move out there. After Machado went to the Dodgers, they didn't see a move that could be made that would balance out the negative of taking a guy who you think might be part of your future and pulling him out of doing what they've been doing. So, I think they did enough to stay in it, and now they're going to still rely quite a bit on this young group that they have to get them over the top and across the finish line.
Yeah, Scott, and Gabe Kapler had said he thought, just experience, they were a first-place team the first half of the season, and then getting the experience should make them a better team in the second half of the season. Do we anticipate that they could make a move into August? And if they do, what area do you think they would maybe targeting today that they couldn't get something done that they could get in August?
It's certainly possible. And look, Phillies fans don't need to be reminded that some of the biggest moves they've made in their better years have been August waiver trades. Jeff Conine was an August waiver trade. Matt Stairs was an August waiver trade. So you can get an impact player for your bench or for your bullpen in August. It's just a lot harder because a guy has to clear waivers, and that's a process. And, I don't know if the fact that there are fewer contenders than usual makes that easier or harder. I haven't really thought it through quite yet, whether that's going to mean that guys will get claimed any easier or not. It may have no effect whatsoever. But, there's always that possibility. So, Matt Klentak doesn't put his cell phone in his drawer today and say, I'm done. Mm-hmm. They're going to continue to look. But, look, I think that if you look at them, if they have full health, that they're 25, it's going to be difficult to find a guy who clears waivers, who you can add, who's going to really be much of an addition to what they've got, given that they want to keep the young guys playing and keep this young group active in what they're doing here. So it's possible, but it's never likely. I never, when I covered the Red Sox, when I covered the Phillies, I never thought like August waiver trades were likely. I always thought if they could get a player in August who could help them, to think of it as kind of like a bonus.
He's Scott Lauber, and you can follow him on Twitter at Scott Lauber. He's a reporter for the Inquirer, the Daily News, Philly.com, and the Phillies Red Sox. Again tonight, it is Pomerantz is going for Boston. Who's pitching for Philly? I know the Boston pitcher. I don't know the Arrieta, right?
Jake Arrieta, your Game 2 starter.
There we go. All right. Good stuff, Scott. Appreciate the time.
All right. Thanks. Anytime.